No stream rises higher than its source. Whatever man might build could never express or reflect more than he was. He could record neither more nor less than he had learned of life when the buildings were built. His philosophy, true or false, is there? Frank Lloyd Wright, the greatest gift you could ever give yourself is also the wisest business investment you could ever make. It is also the most critical step in accomplishing any challenging task, and is the one step without which all other success strategies, no matter how brilliant or time-tested, are doomed to fail. What is this mysterious gift? It is your own personal development, investing in your own improvement, your own personal growth and betterment, is all these things and more. Abraham Lincoln said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe." In other words, he would spend twice as much time working on himself as on the task itself. What do most people do? They grab the axe, dull or not, and start wailing away at the tree. And if they aren't making a major dent in that tree pretty soon, they quit and probably mutter something about how it's the tree's fault. How you swing the axe, how hard and what arc, and with what rhythm on, exactly what spot you hit the tree on. These are strategies that concern your actions, and they can all be measured, weighed, and improved, ... But it starts with the axe itself, and the axe is you. Results come last. It is easy to be seduced by the promise of results. We live in a results-oriented world, a culture that overwhelmingly measures the success of a course of action by its results. Talk is cheap. After all, what is it that really matters? Results, the bottom line. Show me. Proof of the pudding's in the eating, right? But there is a problem here. There's a flaw in this thinking. In fact, the flaw in this thinking is so profound, 95% of all people's efforts are ending up as failure. And what is so remarkable is that this isn't some deep, hidden, subtle flaw. It's so obvious. Everyone ought to see it, but it's so deeply ingrained in our culture. Nearly everyone is hypnotized into missing it. Here is the flaw. How can you judge the course of action you're taking by its results, when its results come last? The problem with focusing on results is simply that it doesn't work. Having your attention on your results is like driving your car by looking in the rearview mirror. Your results live in the past, and like all things in the past, they belong there. What you can do with your results is learn from them. Results are valuable feedback. Let them help motivate and guide your tomorrows. But a focus on results only takes you out of the present moment where the action really is. What about your actions? Many approaches to personal and professional development, I have observed, go deeper than results by focusing instead on your actions as the place to bring about positive change. That's a logical place to start looking, but the problem is that your actions are not the source of your success or failure. Again, that's why diets don't work. They can't. They're doomed to fail, because most diets dictate what your actions should be. They don't deal with where your actions come from. The only reliable, consistent way to control your attitudes, that control your actions, which control your results, is to control your thoughts. And the source of your thoughts is your philosophy. This is why the master entrepreneur W. Clement Stone uttered these often quoted words: "What the mind of man can conceive and believe, the mind of man can achieve." Your philosophy is your paradigm, your view of the way life is. It is how you say life works or doesn't work, and determines everything about the course of actions you'll choose and keep choosing over time. Your philosophy is the foundation upon which you build your life. There is nothing more fundamental or essential. Your philosophy is the source of your failure or success. It is the garden in which your beliefs grow, and your beliefs lay the fertile groundwork for everything else. The slight edge will either promote you or expose you for who and what you really aren't. Who and what you are comes from your philosophy. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus spoke of two types of foundation. He spoke about the wise man who built his house upon the rock, and the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and burst against that house, and yet it did not fall, for it had been founded upon the rock. And then he told of a second character, a foolish man, who built his house on sand, and the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and burst against that house, and it fell, and great was its fall. The foundation upon which you are building the house of your life is what will determine the nature of the house itself. Will the house stand? Will it fall apart? Will it leak? Or will it withstand whatever weather nature throws at it? What results will your life produce? It's a critically important question, because by the time the results are in, the outcome will already be pretty well determined. You can't wait for your results to judge your actions. You can't wait to see what kind of house you've got before you judge whether or not it had a sturdy foundation. Your success will always be the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Your philosophy comes first. Your results come last. And this brings us to the most important slight edge strategy of all. Continuous learning. The trouble with the world is not that people know too little, but that they know so many things that ain't so. Mark Twain talked about all sorts of forces you can harness to help power your path through life. The most important force of all, the force that drives the whole process of living with the slight edge, is the power of continuous learning. When I say learning, I don't mean simply learning from school, although schooling certainly has its place. And I don't just mean learning from books or from a teacher, though. You already know that I revere the knowledge to be gained from good books, and I feel the same way about great teachers too. I'm also not just talking here about learning from the example of others, from advice from your friends, from the school of hard knocks, or learning from your mistakes, ... I don't mean any one of those, ... I mean all of them. Once you've set foot on the path of mastery and grasped the philosophy of the slight edge, educating yourself through any and all means available is the critical process that will keep you on that path and make the slight edge work for you. I also don't mean education in the more narrowly defined sense of learning specific skills or subjects. Naturally, you need to pursue continuous learning in order to acquire the knowledge and skills involved in mastering any subject or pursuit that will contribute to your personal and professional growth and development. But it's more than simply a matter of acquiring specific knowledge. Continuous, lifelong learning is the material from which you continually build your philosophy, and by now, you and I both know how important that is. Learning is also the material from which you build your awareness, and that is also critical in mastering the slight edge. After getting out of high school, 58% of all high school graduates who don't go on to college never read a book again. When I first read that figure, I was shocked, ... but not surprised. That's one reason the 95% give up and slide down the failure curve. They spend their lives building someone else's dream, not because they aren't capable of building their own, but because they never gained the knowledge they needed. Illiteracy is a much greater problem today than many people realize. Of the slightly more than 6 billion people on Earth, according to the Wycliffe Organization, 1 billion cannot read. Can you imagine that? One person out of every 1 billion people cannot read, and that rate is on the rise. But consider this. if you are one of that 58% who never reads after high school, what's the difference between you and the billion people around the world who couldn't read if they wanted to? No difference at all, of course. Simply reading won't necessarily put you on the success curve. Remember my shoeshine woman and her little pile of novels. No question about her literacy. The woman loved to read. But where would she have been if that pile had included Norman Vincent Peale, Dale Carnegie, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, The Millionaire Next Door, Smart Women Finish Rich, and any of the hundreds and thousands of other inspirational, educational, empowering books out there? Where would she have been if for the previous year or two, she'd read just 10 pages, one chapter, of those books in between customers? You know where she'd be. When was the last time you attended a seminar or took an adult education class? Not because you were required to, but simply to improve yourself. When was the last time you went bowling? If your bowling average is over 200, congratulations. You're a heck of a bowler, and you may want to rethink your priorities. If you lined up the 100 most successful men and women in America and calculated their bowling averages, I bet they wouldn't break 70. The average American will go bowling 233 times in his or her life, and they all have something better to do. I know bowling is one of the most popular pastimes in the United States, but wouldn't you rather have success be your most popular pastime? Thank you so much for watching. Truly, the fact that you stayed until the end of this video says something important about you. It shows that you care, that you're hungry, that somewhere deep inside, you believe you're meant for more, and you're ready to take the small steps to get there. Your story is still being written, and the pen is in your hand. Thanks again for watching. Keep growing. Keep believing, and never forget your slight edge begins now.